I think it's time we talk about UI elements. When I say UI elements or UI Toolkit, it's been rebranded. So I'm not going to talk about the runtime UI elements because I don't think it's a viable infrastructure for production. But the editor is okay. It has its downsides, but it has its good sides as well. So today I'm going to start talking about this infrastructure, how to use it, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks I learned along the way. Of course, for the editor side, you need to be aware of the fact that you have to know what a serialized object is, how it works, what a serialized property is. So basically, you need to know a bit about the Unity editor to be able to create custom things. It's not hard. There are just a lot of things that are undocumented and aren't properly explained, and you will hit your head on the wall every time you want to create different things because you will not understand how they work. And it takes a lot of time to have the basic grasp on the basic knowledge required. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Let's start creating our first editor. All right. So because we're working with editor code, the golden rule is never have runtime code call editor code. So these the Unity engine and the Unity editor and the Unity engine should not cross on the runtime. So basically, keep your editor code in an editor folder and your runtime code in the runtime folders, for example. Don't cross the streams, or you will have issues when you are building your project. All right. In order to so in this video series, one more thing. I'm going to show you how to create editors, custom property drawers, windows. I'm going to show you how to call different things, how to create your own custom UI elements components. Yes, you can do that. And I don't know how many people know this, but Doozy UI has an entire framework of, and actually has a lot of components in UI elements on the editor side. And I'm going to show you how to use them all and so on. So let's get started. All right. In order to start, I need a class that I want to attach to a game object in order to create an editor for, right? So I'm going to create here two folders, an editor folder. By the way, the name editor for a folder is a special name for Unity. Yeah. So if you're creating editor script, it should be under a folder called editor or a subfolder of this. Yeah. All right. So this is where we're going to create our stuff, right? Let's come here and I'm going to create a class and I'll call it first class. There you go. And let's fix the namespace. Okay, and this will be a mono behavior, so we can attach it to a game object. Mono behavior. There you go. Ooh, perfect. Now I'm going to create a game object. I think the microphone is a bit too close. All right, let's go back to Unity. Oh, now the downside of creating editor scripts in Unity is that it always reloads and takes quite a lot of time. So sorry. So if you're gonna do this, just be prepared to wait a bit more than you normally would. So game object, let's attach my script, first class. It's empty because it has nothing inside of it. So let's add two things and play. So let's add a string, public string name. And let's add a serialized serialized field, private int health. I'm doing this because Unity can draw public variables and serialized private variables. So I want to show you both use cases. These are the only two that I know of. So let's come back here and we will see that our editor has now name and health drawn. Are you loading today? Like I said, there are some wait times. Yeah, all right. So now I have a name and a health. All right, I want to create a custom editor for this. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to come in the editor folder and here I want to create a new class. Now, whenever I create custom editors, I usually use the class name and I add the editor at the end. So I'm going to say first class editor. All right, let's also fix the namespace. So we're now, all right, perfect. And because this is an editor, I'm going to say Unity editor.editor, right? And this is not enough. So right now I know that this class is an editor, but I need to tell it an editor of which class are you? So I'm going to say this is a attribute, custom editor, type of first class. Now, is this enough to create a custom editor? Well, it's not. You need to override and create your own things. You need to override custom inspector GUI. So I say override custom create inspector GUI. Jesus. And now I have access to changing the editor for this particular class. So let's go back to Unity. Once it decides it finished compiling this awesome code. Yeah. Come on. Perfect. So now it looks the same because we just overridden. Yeah, whatever. The create inspector GUI, but we didn't change anything. So if I want to change something here, let's replace the editor with a label. So I'm going to say new label, hello world. Perfect. By the way, someone asked me, how does the autocomplete work in my IDE in Rider? Well, I also use GitHub Copilot, so just having AI helps. All right. So let's go back here. And now you will see that we no longer see the name and the health, but we will see a hello world written there. And there you go. It's hello world. And that's just the start. Now, you will notice that this method returns a visual element. So basically a container. Think of it as something that holds all the elements in your editor, right? So what I usually do is I create a root. That's how I call it. That's how I call this container. You can say whatever name you want. Cat, dog, mouse, whatever. I don't care. But I'm going to say root. So I say private visual element root. And I'm going to make it a property because why not? And I'm going to return the root. Now, I also like to structure my editor in 3 stages. So in order to access and to be able to change, actually, let me zoom this in a bit for you. All right. So in order to access these variables, the name and the health, every editor has a serialized object. The serialized object contains serialized properties. These serialized properties are the ones that allow us to access and change these variables. And they also help us with undo and redo commands in Unity. All right. So the first thing that I do when I create an editor is to find these serialized properties. And I have a method that I call, actually we're going to create it because it doesn't exist in this editor, find properties. All right. So this is step 1. Step 2, after I have these properties, is to create the visual elements, the fields for them. All right. So I'm going to say either create editor, but I usually say initialize editor. So initialize editor. editor, right? And the third step is to assemble them, basically to put them inside this root container. And after that, this root container is delivered to the inspector and shown to you in Unity, right? So the first step will be compose. Compose, right? So this is how I like to structure my things, because I always, when I see an error in the editor, I know, is it a null reference because I didn't find the proper property? Is it a problem in the with the initialize with the creation of the editor of its elements, or is it a problem in the composition in the layout? So depending where I want to look, depending where the issue is, I know where to look. So I recommend you, instead of creating a huge method that is very hard to follow and to use, I recommend structuring your editor like this. You don't need to use UXML for your layouts and USS files for your, so basically Unity style sheets, right? To create a custom editor. You can do that. Just know that if you change any value in code, it will override that. I'm also going to show you in future videos how you can use UXML and USS files, but you really don't need them. They're not mandatory, right? All right. So let's create our find properties. I'm not doing that here. And our initialize editor. And this is where I want to create my route. This is GitHub, by the way, Copilot that is helping me write this a bit faster. All right. And yeah, I'm going to leave that. Add new label, hello world. All right. So right now, this editor, just by looking here, it creates its root, and then it adds a label hello world. So this is what we're going to see in the editor once it loads. Unity, come on. All right, so we have hello world. Let's delete this. So what did I say? Well, we want to get our serialized properties. And in order to do that, we need to create some properties here. So I say private serialized property. And I usually, when I work with properties, I name them property. And then I use the variable name. Get set. And for the other one, I'm going to say private serialized property health, I think. Yeah. There you go. Get set. Now, we need to find them. And like I said, every editor creates a serialized object of your class. It already knows what I want. Thank you, GitHub. It's just wrong, but it's good. So I'm going to say property name, serialized object, find property, and here you have to make sure that you're writing it the way you should. So if the variable name has a capitalized letter, you should do it like that. All right. Now, I'm going to show you, this is I think in the tips and tricks department. Another way of doing this, if you have a public variable, for a serialized field, it doesn't work, but for a public one, it does, this trick. Instead of writing this, I'll say name of first class dot name. So you can do it like that. This way, if you change the variable name, this will change as well, and it will not break. All right. So these are the two ways of getting your properties. All right. So I've got the references. I have a way of changing the values. Now I need to create the fields where they will change. So I will do that with some property fields. We're not going to continue with that, but I'm just going to show you I'm just going to reconstruct the editor the way Unity does it, right? So I'm going to add here. Can you see it? Yeah. Private property field, and I'll say name property field get set. All right. And I also want not age. Come on. health property field. All right. So now that I've created these properties, let's also get them here. So name property field is a new property field of the property name serialized property. That's a mouthful. And health property field is a new property field of the property health serialized property. All right. So I've got my serialized property. I created the fields that will be the visual representation. And now I want to inject them. I want to add them to my container. So I do that here. And I'll say, do you know what to write? GitHub? Oh, it actually does. All right. So I click add name property field and add health property field. And now you will see that we have the editor as Unity would draw it, right? So let's come back here. So basically we created a custom editor to make it exactly like Unity does it. Nice, huh? There you go. So this is how Unity does it. All right. Let's say I do not want to have this empty space here with name and health, and I'd like to have name and after that the health in the same row. How would I do that? Well, I need to create a row and add them there, right? This is gonna become crazy real fast. And just as a side note, we won't be creating all the other editors like this because I hope you watched the previous video about extending classes and method chaining. We're going to use that a lot here. And without that, this is going to get very fast out of hand because the way Unity designed this, so the team that designed this UI framework made it very verbose. Basically, you have to write a lot of crazy things just to achieve some simple changes in your code. I really don't like that, so that's why you will see a lot of changes in the way that we will be writing this editor. It's not hard, so it's actually easier than writing the way they made this. I don't know why they did it. Anyway, back to our thought process. So, like I said, I want to change the way. Oh, sorry, I touched the camera. Is it okay? Still shaking. Stop shaking. All right. Sorry about that. Let's get back. All right. So, like I said, I want to turn this into a row, right? So one way of doing it, I'm going to open the debugger. This is Control F5. So, or if you're on Mac, Command, Action Command or Option. No, Control F5. All right. So Window, UI Toolkit, Debugger. So one way of changing this is by, let me show you right here. So we can change this by, where is that property? Flex direction. We can say row. So basically we can put them in a row. But as you can see, they don't look that great. So once we've done that, we can say flex grow 1. So we can expand this. Actually, this should be flex grow 1. And the other property field flex grow 1. So this is how it would look if you were to put it on a single line, right? And how do you do that? Well, it's very easy. I'm going to say root dot style dot direction, flex direction. We're not going to do it like that, by the way, because it's awful. And here I'm going to say name property field style flex grow equals 1. And Copilot should be able to do that. Of course, you can also write it like this. This is another way of doing it, but yeah, it takes a lot of space. All right, so now when you come back, you will see that we have this editor that looks like, you know how it looks like. I'm not gonna say it, you know the word. All right, so instead of creating property fields, I'm gonna create a text field for my string. So basically a field where I can enter text, and an integer field for my health. And this will help. Sorry, I didn't want to close this. So instead of this property field, I'm going to say text field. And this will be an integer field. And let's also rename the variable. And this will be name text field and health integer field. These are all native to UI elements, by the way. And they're similar to the ones in immediate GUI. So here there's a small difference. So I'm going to say text field. And now I need to say name text field dot bind property name property name. So I know I'm binding this to a property. And here I'm going to say integer field. There you go. And bind to property. So just by doing that, we no longer have labels and it looks a bit better. And usually you would put the label on top if you want to have a better user experience. Whew. Come on, load. There you go. And now this looks like this. All right. Let's also add some tooltips so we know what they are. So here I'm going to say name text field tooltip, and this is name of the character. I don't know, GitHub wrote that, not me. And health of the character. Perfect. It's good to have an AI assistant, I have to admit. All right. Come on. Now waiting for Unity to load, by the way. Has these crazy hold-ons. All right, so now I have this name of the character, health of the character. Hooray, hooray. All right, so I've created this. Let me show that they actually work. Properties, debug. So let's say name Tomcat, health 150. So you can see it changed. I can also undo these changes and redo them. All right, so undo, 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 redo, redo, and you get the idea. All right, so you know that they work, and they also work with do and undo and redo. All right, let's also create some buttons because I want to show you how you can call a method in your editor. So basically, you may want to perform certain things in the editor and you want to call something there, or you may want to call a method from your class, a public method, of course. So let me show you how to do that. So let's go to our class and let's say public void print info from class, right? And I do not like these debugs. Can you suggest me something else? No, it doesn't know how to do that. So debug.log, and I'm gonna say name and health. Perfect. I like this. And this will be class. From class, actually class, all right? And I'm gonna copy this and I wanna have a method here. So I'm gonna show you how to print, how to trigger a method from your editor and or how to trigger one from your class, right? So I'm gonna import this copy info, print info from editor. And instead of name, I'm going to use name text field dot value and health integer field dot value. Right? There's a bit of there are some differences, but it's okay. And now we need some buttons. So basically 2 buttons, right? Let's say private button, and I'm going to say print from class button and print from editor button. Okay. Print from class button. It's a new button. And here we have a, I think a Unity action. I am not using native components, especially the button in UIElements, because it's really not that great, but I want to show it's an action. I want to show you how it works. And in order to do that, you need a way to cast your class. So basically, the editor has something called target, and you're going to say first class target, and then one more parentheses, and I'm going to say here print from class, right? And print from class button.text equals, let's see what print from class, and it already knows how to write that. Thank you, GitHub. All right, so now I have these 2 buttons. I need to add them. Can you add them? Thank you. All right. So now I have these 2 buttons. One prints from the class and one prints from the editor. Let's say here editor. So we know from where the message was printed from. Whew. This is a lot. This is just a gentle introduction to UIElements, by the way. This framework isn't that easy as it may seem. All right, print from class. As you can see, it works. Class, name, Tomcat, health 150. Print from editor, editor, name. All right. I usually do not use this like that. So I create a property right here and I say private first class casted target, and I say first class target, right? And I use this here. I think it's nicer, to be honest. Right. Now, if you have multiple items selected, then you use targets, and this changes a bit. I'm also going to show you this. Yeah, I'm going to say first class casted targets, and it already knows what I want. So basically you can also do that. So if you have only one game object selected with this script attached, you use target. If it's a multi-selection, and in order for it to work, you can say can edit multiple objects here, then you use casted targets. It's a bit more complex, so I'm not going to go into that in this tutorial, right? So just forget you saw this. It wasn't here, right? All right, now looking at this code, it's very verbose, and I honestly don't like it. And I'm going to show you a better way of doing things. So we have UI element extensions in our framework, and this is for runtime, for example. So what we did was to create extension methods that work in a method chaining way for the entire UIElements framework. So this is another way of using it. And we also added quite a lot of new things that just increase the quality of life for any coder that has to write custom editors. You're using native code, but because it's structured in this way, it's way easier to work with. Sorry for my voice, I'm really tired. For example, for the tooltip, it's in order to set the tooltip, it sets the tooltip and returns your component. What do I mean by that? Well, look here. You have name text field. You have this is you're repeating the same variable name over and over again. And this is, first of all, you have to write it, so it's a lot of work. Then when you read it, your brain needs to ignore that and to understand what is happening. It's really harder to see. So what we did was to create method chaining for this. So instead of writing it like this, let me just comment this. We wrote like this. Actually, I can leave it. It's not a problem. So new text field, right? And I'm going to say bind to property, because this is the one that we created. And I'm going to say property name. Then I'm going to say set style flex grow 1. Set style flex grow 1. And I'm going to say set tooltip name of the character. So as you can see, this is easier, way easier to see and to read than this crazy mess. And trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg when you work with UIElements. This is crazy. So I'm going to delete this and leave it like that. For this, for example, I can rewrite it with set style, flex direction, and set this value. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put it like that. Set style, flex direction, and I'm going to set it like that, right? And for this one, if you're curious, why does this work? Well, let's look at the method. So it's the same thing, but it's less verbose. It's easier to use, right? It's really nothing. There's no shenanigans happening in the background. It's just another way of writing this awful code, in my opinion. So I'm going to change this as well. So say new integer here, field. Now let's set bind to property, because I wanted to return my integer field. Okay, set flex grow 1. Jesus, I'm tired. Set tooltip, and can GitHub help me? Yeah, thank you. All right. Again, this new button. Set text print from class. So just by changing these things here, it's the same editor. Don't get me wrong. We didn't do anything fancy right now. Set text. But as you can see, it's way easier to read. Let's go down a bit. You see this crazy mess? Well, this can be avoided just by doing, instead of add, we created another method called add child, because this is a child of this method. And just by replacing these with add child, and let's remove this. Is that better? So now I know that this is a text field, and these are it's bound to this property, and these are the things that I've set to it. I think for me personally, it's easier to read, and I've looked a lot in this infrastructure. And let's say add child. What does it do? Well, it does exactly this: target, add child, and return. So in order to allow for method chaining, right? So let's come back here, and you will see that this looks exactly the same, but written in a different style, right? So I strongly recommend using this style if you want to have a good time creating editors. Basically, I can create an editor in 1 to 2 minutes, a custom editor for a new class, depending of how complex it is, but most of the times it takes me, like I said, a few minutes to write it, just because it's this easy. All right, so these are the basic building blocks for an editor. Now, I know our system editor UI, this is built on top of, this is our connection with UIElements is built on top of it. Hasn't been advertised in our materials, but you can change. Basically, you can create your own color scheme. You can change the fonts for your editors. You can even reference UXML and USS files. So basically for layout and for style sheets. The way UIElements requires you to access these files is via strings with the path to them. I really hate that. I really hate that I have to use strings. So we have a database and we use references. And this way I no longer need to use strings. And if you move if you change the folders from, if you move the Doozy folder somewhere else, they will still work. If they were strings, well, they would break like hell. What else? So you can add, you even have special colors for when you hover your mouse over a UIElements component. So you have normal, highlighted, pressed, selected, and disabled states, and you can create your own. All right. You have animated icons, and there's a huge database of them, and you can also create your own, and I'm going to show you how to do that in this video series. What else? We have textures, of course, and yeah, these are static textures. And again, I'm going to show you how to use them. So this is a very big editor. It's quite a big infrastructure. You even have these options. What else do we have here? So in editor UI, there are a lot of components called fluid. Yeah, and I'm going to show you how to use them because there are a lot. Actually, let me give you a quick taste of how it works. So for example, I have this class, right? And I want to add a header, first of all, because it's nice to have headers. And I'm going to use this fluid component header component. So basically, this is a component created in UIElements. This is different than the ones that Unity created. And it's quite versatile. It uses its own UXML file and USS file at its base. It's very, very complex, and it's very easy to use. And let me show you. For example, I want to add here. Where do I want to add it? So let's add to our class. Let's add a header, right? By the way, we also, our components also use an internal pooling system. UIElements may seem like a fantastic framework, but don't get me wrong, it can kill you very easily because once you have a bigger hierarchy and a deeper hierarchy, just dies. It consumes resources like mad. So we even have an internal pulley system to recycle things in order to make everything work nice. So once you have complex editors, it's game over if you do not manage your editors properly. Anyway, let's say private fluid component header, get and set, right? Let's also, it's usually bad to set the, to change anything on the root. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to put these under a row. Now there's also another class called design utils from utilities that gives you different pre-made, pre-configured things. For example, design utils row. What is this row? Well, it's a visual element that has its flex direction set to row, flex row 1, and I think it also has a name called row. So let's check it out. So what's this? So it creates a new visual element. It sets its name to row. Then you have the flex direction and flex row 1, and that's it. So yeah, I'm going to teach you how to use all of this. Now, check it out. Because we're using chain methods, I can just move this here. And not this. And I've just changed the layout. Basically, now the root contains a row with all of these. And I also want to add here, add child, component header. Let's add some spacing, add child design utils space block. And this is basically a visual element that has a few styles applied to it. It's nothing fancy, but it is a way to space things. And I'm going to add a space block between each of these so that they're no longer, they don't look that bad. Let's just wait for this to reload. I think we're going to get a null reference exception for the component header. I'm not sure, but we should get a null reference exception. Let's see. No. Okay, so in this latest Unity version, they are handling this. Nice. All right, so here I'm going to say component header equals, instead of saying new fluid component header, I can also do that. But I would like to use the pooling system, so I'm going to show you how to use it without creating a new one. And now you're going to see a gray bar at the top of our editor once Unity loads. Ooh, this takes a lot of time. All right, so this is our custom editor, right? Our custom component. All right, because I want to use the pooling system, I'm going to say fluid dot get, and I'm going to add the component name. So set component name. This will be my first class, right? So just by doing this, you will see that Unity again stalls. Jesus. So basically now you'll see that this is a pre-formatted way of adding nicely designed, I'd say, component headers. Come on. There you go. So now we have this, right? Let's also add an icon. And let's add the Unity icon. So how do I find a custom icon in this system? Well, let's go back to Unity. So tools, Doozy, editor UI. So I'm looking for sprite sheets. Now I know where this icon is actually, but I can also say Unity. All right, so this is where it is. So I'm going to say editor sprite sheets dot editor UI dot icons dot Unity. Let's check it out. Editor sprite sheets dot editor UI dot icons dot Unity. And now I have an animated icon, just like that. And like I said, there are a lot of animated icons. You can also create your own. I'm going to show you how that is done. It's really not rocket science. Of course, if you want fancy ones, it is a bit of rocket science. But other than that, yeah, it's really easy. Yeah. So now this is our class, our first class. Let's say you can also add here custom buttons or pre-made ones. We allow you to add a manual, an API, and a YouTube out of the box. So you can say add manual button, add API button, and add YouTube button. There you go. So now we will see 3 new buttons here. By default, they will, if you do not provide a website, the manual will go to the Doozy manual, the API will go to the Doozy API website, and for YouTube, you've guessed it, it will go to YouTube, where you're probably seeing this video. So I'm going to click manual. It opens our knowledge base, right? If I click API, it just goes to the API, and here you can have fun with reading, let's say, scene director, and see how this works. Or YouTube, and it should be our YouTube channel. Now, if I want to go to, let's say I click the manual and it goes to Google, yeah, so you can change the default URL. So I'll say https google.com. Well, the manual button will go to Google, or maybe your custom whatever website you have, an internal website, internal link, or whatever you may want. Let's see it load. I just want to show you that it works. And we're also going to color it and add a type text, basically a secondary information. So now I'm going to click this and it will go to Google. There you go. Yeah, it's really not that complicated. Let's say I want to color this. Again, editor UI. You can add your own color palette or use some of these. These are pre-made. One color is for the dark theme. The other color is for the light theme, the light skin in Unity, basically. I didn't mention it, but the entire system works on both skins and it's properly calibrated to have a visual balance. So let's say amber. Yeah, I'm going to make it this color. How do I find this color? Editor colors dot editor UI dot amber. Yeah, that hard. So I'm going to add it here. Set accent color, editor colors dot editor UI dot amber. There you go. Because this is method chaining, I can also change the order. It really doesn't matter. Actually, for the buttons, it matters because you're going to change the order. But other than that, it should be okay. Let's wait for it to load. And you will see that the YouTube logo will be that amber color, that yellowish, whatever. Of course, sometimes it takes longer for Unity to load. Yeah, happy times. And there you go. I've just changed my, now you have a nice looking editor header. So and here I can also say set type and say editor. Actually, test script. Let's say something like that. And it's going to write here test script with a smaller font and in a gray color. Now, if I change the skin of the editor from dark to light, you will see that the colors will adjust. Let's just wait it load. Wait for it to load. Come on. Do it now. Perfect. And as you can see, test script. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm also going to show you preferences. Let's switch to the light scheme. If you're creating your own custom things without having a proper framework, a layer, because editor UI is a layer over UI elements, you will have a hard time having both themes, dark and light. So if you're working with a bigger team, some will like the light theme, some will like the dark theme. So it's good to write once and have it work for both themes. Just a thought. So yeah, even though Doozy UI Manager is mostly for runtime, it has a huge framework that we will start to show you how to use for the editor side. And it uses only UI elements. Let's also change these to a nicer format. It's really easy. I'm going to use another component called fluid field. This makes everything, every field nicer because it adds the label on top and then the field. And you can also insert different things. I'm going to show you in different scenarios. So I want to say private name fluid field, name fluid field, and not description, but health. Okay. And now we need to create our name fluid field. Let's just move this here and say name fluid field equals, again, I'm going to use the polling system, fluid field get. And I'm going to say here, actually, let's say get set label text, name of the character, right? I no longer need the tooltip, by the way. And add field content name text field, right? And I'm gonna do the same thing here. Health fluid field, and it already knows what I want. I'm gonna ignore these buttons for now. I'm not gonna add them anymore. So again, this will work. And here I'm gonna say name fluid field and health fluid field. And just like that, you will see a nicer editor without doing anything really fancy. Oh God, my voice is gone. Did Unity reload? Almost. Yeah, there you go. So let's check it out. Come on. So there you go. I think this is nicer than what we had before. So let's go to before. How do we do that? Do you remember? You just go here and say return base create inspector GUI. So this is the default editor. So let's go to the default editor. Like I said, when you work with editor code, it takes a bit of time. This entire video is in real time, so there aren't any edits or anything fancy. So this is the default editor, right? And this is the one we just created. Of course, we can also create our custom buttons, but if I start showing you those, it will this video will be even longer. All right, so that's pretty much it for the start of a custom editor. I'm going to show you a lot of other things. Just know that, let's clear this. Let's make the class nicer. Yeah, we're not even using that. All right. So yeah, this is how you create a custom editor. I'm going to show you how to create property drawers, list views, like I said, windows. I'm going to show you how to create your own custom UI elements components. It's really not very hard, but it takes a lot of know-how to do it. I remember when I first started with this infrastructure, it took me around 6 to 9 months to be able to work with it properly, and I had to build a lot of components to use it, because it's once you have complex things, there you go, this is the editor. Once you have complex things, it's very hard to use it. I don't know why it was made that way. It has a lot of queries with strings for whatever reason. Anyway, I don't want to bash it. It's okay, but it has its problems. One important thing is that every native UI element component has some strange either margins and or paddings. I don't know why is that happening, but yeah, I'm going to show you in different videos. Yeah, you should reset that to 0. All right. What else do you want to show? Well, yeah, I'm going to show you that you can create, let's say for example, this is a slider. This is I think this is called range slider. So basically you can set to what values it should snap to. Of course, it needs a image to work. Let's center this. Let's go to it. So basically you have a relative change, and you can add 12, 24, 32, or maybe an absolute change. So I say I want to have a 64, and yeah, let's make 64, 128. So basically it just snaps and goes back, and you can add, it's animated. Yeah. So I'm going to show you a lot of advanced things, how you can create them, or maybe let's say, I think the reactor has those things that grow gouges. Where is it? It's right here. So basically, I'm going to show you how you can create this, and even these animations. These are all inside UIElements, by the way. So yeah. All right. So that's pretty much it. This was from UI Designer, I think. If I have a game object selected, yep. And if I have an image selected, yeah. All right. Okay, so that's it. I know I talked a lot, and I'm gonna show you in other videos even more things with UIElements. All right. I hope this was useful to you. And yeah, I'm gonna see you. If you like this in the other videos, remember to like and subscribe. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in other videos.